All right, so thank you for sitting down with us today, man. I want to welcome you on the show, Digital Soul Presents. We got our very special guest here, very talented writer, artist, arranger, producer, all the above for many decades, and he's here joining us, giving us a little bit of history about his beginnings, what he's been doing, what he's currently doing, and future projects, and all that good stuff. We're just going to dive deep into some really good talk. And really welcome our brother Mbaji to the house here. Thank you for joining us.
And just for the listeners to know, my full name is Mbaji.
Mbaji, correct.
And people got lazy, so they started cutting it down. Baj to Baji, but
you answered to them all.
yeah. So a lot of my credits are under the Mbaji.
Correct. Cool. Well, it's a pleasure to have you, man. I know we've been talking for quite a bit, and now we get to sit down and dig into a little bit of your history and what you got going on. First off, man, I know you started a long time ago with some very famous people, as far as your writing credentials. Before that, let's go back to young Mbaji, basically like you started in high school, elementary. Was there any musical teachers or schooling? What was the beginning of Mbaji?
No, actually, I had no intention of being in the music business.
Okay.
In fact, my major all through high school, where my predominant major was art. I thought I was going to be an artist, paint portraits and all that. How I got into the business was my cousin Sagidi. And when I first came out here from Chicago in the early 60s, he was already in a singing group, doo-wop and whatnot. And I was green as a green tomato when I first started. I've been, that transition from Chicago to the West Coast. First of all, that was a major thing.
I'll bet. Yeah.
Back then. So, go through high school. Me and him get an apartment together right after high school. As soon as I got that diploma, I was out the house. I couldn't wait.
Flew the coop.
Yeah. So him and two of his other best buddies, Harold Clayton and Ranji Southern, who was a guitar player. Harold was a vocalist, tenor.
Okay. And
they already had their little group. So I couldn't, like I said, I had no visions of being in the music business. So my cousin said, well, can you write lyrics or write poems? So I said, I can try. So that's how it started.
Wow.
So this was around 68, 69. And I attempted to, in 68, both of us were going to LACC, Los Angeles City College. And I took a course in theory, but it was a little bit, all these numbers and whatnot. I don't, I just want to write some music, so I passed on that. So it just progressed from there, just kept digging at them lyrics. And then I got a little bit more savvy in the early 70s. I picked up a little Squire bass and tried to pluck on that a little bit. I seem to have a knack for bass lines.
Okay.
Since I couldn't play the piano that much.
Okay.
I went with the bass, and it progressed. My cousin was working at Motown.
Right.
So as a lyricist, so he was meeting all kind of people, and he eventually ran into this producer, Leonard Caston, And our first release was on Eddie Kendricks. It was called Let Yourself Go. It originally was slated to be released on Junior Walker, but something happened. But I'm glad Eddie did it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that kind of started the snowball.
Okay, cool. Now you mentioned some before we go any further, you mentioned some legendary names. One of them is, you know, your family, Sagidi. I want to touch on that because this is a man who, if you have any soul, R&B, funk records in your collection from the 70s and 80s, this man wrote a lot of shit on these. This guy was everywhere. I mean, Taste of Honey, Donald Byrd. I mean, you know what are Sagidi's other credits here? Tavares. I mean, he's got a ton of stuff that he's written.
He did a lot of arranging. I'm not sure if he wrote anything for Taste of Honey.
Okay.
But what happened was he hooked up with the Mizell brothers.
Right. Okay.
They produced the Taste of Honey.
Okay. Okay.
And from that hookup, of course, it went into the Donald Byrd stuff.
Right. And those are other names too. The Mizells, amazing producers and writers from back in the day. And then the other person that you mentioned, Leonard Caston, who produced a large vast of Eddie Kendricks material from the 70s. Just legendary names, man. It just doesn't get any better than that. And then from that first initial song that you wrote with the other members for Eddie Kendricks, what did that feel like to finally see your name on a Motown label and so forth?
Well, you know, like anybody, the first time out, the thrill is when you hear it playing on the radio.
Yeah.
And one of the good things, it was Let Yourself Go was released as a single.
Okay. Yeah.
It wasn't the major single off the album. I think Shoeshine Boy was the major single off the For You album for Eddie, you know, cool. So that was the big hit. But anytime it gets dropped as a single, that's, you know.
Yeah, that was a great feeling.
Yeah. So hearing it on the radio, that was the thing. But then again, having something on Motown, which you grew up Motown, Temptations, you know, Miracles, that was they were the bomb back then, you know. So.
Yeah, and Eddie Kendricks at that era, man, he was, you know, coming out of a legendary group, and then fresh to a solo career too, which was so that that in itself was legendary itself. So yeah, absolutely. And then I know from there, that's around 73, 74, around that time frame.
74 was Let Yourself Go. Yes.
Okay, and then from there, looks like the next writing and material went to Donald Byrd, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And what were the projects you worked on with them?
Again, with the Mizell brothers, it was Think Twice and Falling Like Dominoes.
Okay. The two classics.
Right. Yeah. And just to, you know, add to that, ever since those early days, we always had a writing team. So either it was my cousin and Harold, Ranji. Ranji kind of peeled out of the being around a lot in the mid 70s. So he wasn't on any of the Donald Byrd or Think Twice stuff. I mean, we were still communicating and friends, but you know, it was from then it was mainly me, Sagidi, and Harold.
Okay.
And that was our team. And kind of moving forward just a little bit, that's where my concept for Backhouse Nation.
Okay.
I got that from. It didn't start there, but the karma and the vibe was there.
Okay.
You know.
Okay.
That village. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Now I know. Okay, you got the 2 songs with Donald Byrd. I have to let you know, man. Donald Byrd I listen to quite frequently, and there's 2 albums that I visit like more than others. I just wanted to hear from you if there's a favorite album or favorite song besides Think Twice and Dominoes. Is there any other favorites from Donald Byrd or a specific album that you play still to this day?
You know, that Stepping Into Tomorrow album, I forget, Change. That's an awesome song. It's got that groove, it's got that vibe.
Yeah.
And that's one of my other favorites. You know, with the Mizelles, you know, of course, like I said, they've done so much, you know, they've been with everybody. And if for the people that don't know, Larry's brother Fonz was part of the Motown Corporation writing and producing team. They did the Jacksons and a couple of other heavyweights at Motown.
Absolutely. Yeah, they are amazing in every way. They went on to do some amazing stuff for Bobby Humphrey and Rance Allen Group, Gary Bartz, just some great material, man. But one of my favorite producer teams, for sure.
Yeah, LTD.
Yeah, LTD as well. Love to the World album, great album, man. They just got a signature sound, man, that still resonates. Still, when you drop that needle on that turntable, man, it's still powerful.
Yeah, I think they were one of the pioneers of that jazz funk.
Yeah.
Or sometimes I call some of my music jazzy R&B.
Yeah, well, the influence is there, and that's natural because you were around it. So I'm pretty sure you guys were all soaking it up from each other, you know.
Yeah.
Of everything, you know, just throw it in a pot and, you know, let's see what we can make out of it, you know.
Yeah, well, you know, they didn't on the writing side. There's one. Larry Orphans wasn't part of the writing on Dominoes, but Think Twice, Larry did put his little stamp on there, so he's got a piece of the writers on that. But we didn't really kind of interact as far as sitting down, let's jam and all that. Like I said, we would create in this room I'm sitting in now, which I call the back house.
Right.
So that's another spinoff of where Back House Nation came from.
Absolutely. Now, which one of those songs do you still hear the most to this day? Dominoes or Think Twice? Which one do you still hear?
It's kind of, I'm a lean Dominoes, but both of them have been sampled a lot. So I really don't hear it on the radio a lot, you know, at least stations that here in LA, you know, because we really don't have a true, what you would call like that old Quiet Storm format. And 94.7, they done kind of went a different kind of direction. So here in the LA area, we really don't have a true middle of the road smooth jazz station. So, you know, like the Quiet Storm format, they would mix that smooth jazz with traditional R&B.
Right.
We don't have that anymore. So I really don't hear it a lot. And even some of the stuff that was sampled, you know, I really don't hear it a lot, but I see it.
Yeah.
When I get my ass out.
Yeah. That's all that counts, right? Yeah. Now, after those 2 groundbreaking records with Donald Byrd, you're still writing, right, in between? Because I know you did some writing later on with the SOS Band, you and Sagiti as well. Between that time, was there other writing or other groups, artists you were working with, arranging with, or anything like that?
Yeah, actually we have 2 records on Gene Harris.
Ah, okay.
And one was produced by a good friend of ours, Kate Johnson.
Okay.
And for those who may not be familiar with Kate, he's been around the block a lot. He also produced, was it Pop, Pop, Pop by Levert.
Okay.
So he's a producer on that. And also Jerry Peters was part of that, Gene Harris.
Okay.
Yeah. And one of them is actually kind of a funky prayer, and we call it Prayer 76, hinting the year we wrote it.
Mm-hmm.
And that is on the Nexus album. And Always in My Mind is on, let me get it right quick. This album here. In a Special Way.
Yeah, great album. Great album. Okay. That's the is that theme from Relana on that album? I think it's like should be like the first or second cut on that album.
I'm not quite sure because the album cover is beat up on the back.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know the record. I'm very familiar with the record. It's a great record.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So from there, you said you had just those two songs with Gene Harris, right?
Yeah. As far as it being, released on a major artist, we were always working with different people and still doing our writing thing. And then, the next step was that big hit with the S.O.S.
S.O.S. And here comes.
And
Take Your Time, Do It Right, right?
Yeah, I wasn't on that only because I was living in the Bay Area at the time. Mm-hmm. If I had been down here, for sure, I would have been part of that. Mm-hmm. And that was written, with my cousin Sagiti and Harold Clayton.
Mm-hmm. And you made it to the second album, the S.O.S. 2 is where you came in and contributed to that one. And what was the song on that particular album?
Do It Now. In fact, it was the first release off the second album, S.O.S. 2.
Right.
And it still had a little of that flavor from Take Your Time.
Yeah.
But
to keep that same energy going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know all those great artists and groups, man. It just leads up to what you're doing now with your brand, Backhouse Nation, which is strongly rooted in. I'm just checking out a lot of the stuff you're doing, man. It's funk, it's R&B, it's jazz. It's got a little bit of everything, man. Talk about the background. I know you said it basically molded off of the the artists that you work with over the past few years. But as far as actually getting it off the ground and started and the first initial projects, what was that like, getting that started?
Well, after the S.O.S. Stuff, I concentrated on just trying to work with some of the local artists here in LA to do demos for me. Since I'm not a performing musician, I needed an outlet, for my songs to get them, recorded.
Right.
So that's how so it was a good 10, 15, I guess all the way up into the 90s and early 2000s. That's all I was doing, was recording and cutting local talent.
Okay. Yeah, and then you got a lot of albums. One of my favorites is Retrospect. You have a jam on there called Cafe Funk. One of my favorites that you did a while back.
I plan to redo that a little bit.
Really?
Yeah, and I never released it except for on that album. But I'm going to bring in my go-to sax player, Don Bell, and have him just kind of redo the sax part on there, and I might add a little rap on it.
Okay, okay.
And then I'm you know, release it as a single.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Go ahead and rattle off some of, if you don't mind, some of the local artists that you can remember that you have included on some of your projects. If you don't mind name dropping some of those people.
A long time ago, we've worked with John Fluker, who's a singer and a pianist. There was another great vocalist I worked with. His name was Fallon.
Okay.
And what I would do, I would go up to, they used to have a club that Marla Gibbs, the actress, owned.
Yeah.
Called Marla's Memory Lane, and they had
I remember that place.
They had a talent night.
Mm-hmm.
So I would go up there hunting for talent. So okay. I ran across a couple of singers from there that I brought into the studio and ended up recording. And in fact, the single I have now called Still, I originally recorded on a singer I saw up there, Kenny Parker.
Okay.
There is another version, an older version of Still, which is on that retrospect album.
Okay.
That I released. So, on this newer project, I've worked with James Brown's bass player. He's playing on one of my older projects. I explore all kind of singers. So I have a cut, More Love, that's on a singer, Mike Bauer.
Okay.
And I really like to highlight the singers on my current project, which would be Marva Smith, Jeff Robinson, used to play with Loose Ends. Who else do I have on? Maya Siobhan. She's on a couple of the tracks, and I try to get the best vocalists and musicians, which I have found helps you when you record to bring out the best of whatever it is you're doing. You know, this newest project, Full Circle, I've got Bobby Watson from Rufus on a couple of tracks, playing bass.
Wow.
And my go-to keyboard player is Robert Turner. So he's just about on everything. Tate Sims, he's a local artist, guitar player, master guitar player. So those are kind of the highlights. And then, you know, Victor Orlando, he was working with this artist, Faramitha. So she's on one of the tracks 1,000 times.
Yeah.
So
very talented. Yeah.
Yeah. So that kind of rounds out all the people I have on my present project, and then moving forward, I'll find some more.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, man, the current project, it's hot, man. Like I said, you know, just speaking from my ears, man, it's got a good mix. It's got a good mix of jazz, even the up-tempo stuff. You know, it's good club music, man. A couple of my favorites, Surrender and Timeless, are a couple of my favorites on this album, man. Some just great material. How long did it take you to put together an album like this? You know, working all together with the songs and everything.
Well, actually, it was scheduled for release pre-COVID. In fact, in 2020, that's when I was going to release it. And then we know what happened from that. So I didn't want to release anything when all that madness was going around. So
yeah,
I just held off. And I'm glad I did, because I ended up actually adding a song or two to what the original project would have been. So it kind of sweetened it up a little bit. And some of those songs are a little bit, I would say some of those songs are 6, 7 years old.
We only know that if you tell us.
Yeah. So, and like I say, some of them have been recycled. I'm heavy into the recycle.
Hey, a good song is always ready to be recycled, right?
Yeah. So, just updated.
Yeah.
And as we progress, my production skills have gotten sharper and sharper. So I kind of have honed my sound now. So I kind of know what to do, so to say, right now when it comes on the production side.
Yeah. If you could put into words what the Backhouse Nation sound is, what would you say it is in your words?
I would say the term I used earlier, jazzy R&B.
Okay.
Or in the past, I've said R&B with a splash of jazz.
I hear that. I hear that. Now, I know you mentioned earlier that you're a bass guy. You kind of start from there. Is that still your process, starting with kind of you're a bass person there?
For the most part, I will get a groove.
Yeah, like bass and drums, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get a groove and then fill in or with the chords. Again, I'm not a really accomplished musician.
Right.
And everything I do is by ear. I don't know a E sharp from a F flat. If you show me.
Join the club.
Yeah.
I mean, that too. We figure it out.
Yeah, I figured it out, and I said, okay, this sounds good.
Yeah,
it don't sound out of key. It don't sound sharp or flat, and so I just roll it with it like that. So
yeah,
that's pretty much my style. And like I said, I do have a knack for the bass lines, and you can hear it. Let Yourself Go and Dominoes, Think Twice. Most of those are all, bass lines that I
yeah. Now, you mentioned those songs again, and those songs are all, from different influences and different times, and they still stand the test of time. If you put those records on today, they still sound fresh and still sound brand new. What do you think, in your opinion, is something that's missing in today's music that is not making music as timeless as it was back then? Or what we need to do with music more so now?
Maybe less on the gimmicks.
Yeah.
Well, just for my own personal style, I gave up on using MIDI a long time ago.
Okay.
So I went back to that old school 24 track where there was no MIDI. Either you had to play it right, and that was it. That was the formula. So when I call people in, bass players, piano players, just play it. And that's my formula for cutting my records right now.
Right. And that's just to pretty much retain the authenticity, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, and it gives it that kind of, I like to record like it's live, kind of give it that live feeling, instead of the, like I said, the everything is just right on time. If you're a little off every now and then, it kind of gives a little thing to the song,
Yeah. Is there anybody that you have not worked with, legend or local, that you want to work with, or somebody that you anticipate working with soon? Anybody in mind?
Not really. As a songwriter, and that's mainly my forte, is just writing songs. I'm just dealing with my own stuff right now. And if it gets picked up by somebody else, you know, fine. I wish I could do some stuff with some of the, you know, old school groups. And I wish some of the old school groups would start recording again.
Yeah.
But it seems like for some reason, some of them are just
they're just touring.
They're just touring.
Yeah. Yeah, I gather that too. A lot of them are not really going into the studio. They're just doing the touring thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would be nice to get some new material with some fresh new songs, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So having said that, I don't see, you know, the kind of music I write being in the same genre as what is really, I would say, popular right now.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. It could be partially because of the age thing, you know, because again, I don't like to use the vocoders. Not saying I won't, but all the little gimmicks and stuff that some of the younger artists are using. Yeah. Now, someone I really kind of respect is her.
Okay.
You know, for her originality and just, you know, just recording it straight, you know, like I said, no gimmicks or anything. So that's one of the artists I respect now, you know.
Yeah, she's super talented and she's come a long way. So yeah, definitely one of the great artists that's out currently today.
And I do see some of the younger artists starting to move towards that traditional R&B vein more and more. I think just a little bit, few more nudges, and they'll be right back in that pocket. So you know, I'm just hoping that they just keep doing what they're doing.
Yeah. Is there any other particular artist besides her that you kind of tend to listen to, whether it be new or old, that someone that just like your favorite group, favorite artist of any era?
Well, actually, who stays on my playlist?
Yeah.
And it's more from just how clean the productions are is Paul Hardcastle.
Great stuff. Yeah. The Jazz Masters.
Yes, the Jazz Masters. And he, if you listen to his stuff, I think he takes the same song and just tweaks it a little bit. A little bit different bass line, but all the tones, everything stay the same. And I was fortunate enough to hook up over either I just emailed him. I was obsessed with who is the sax player that he uses all the time. And eventually I found out who it was, and we connected. You know,
oh wow,
he's a Facebook friend, and you know, emails and all that kind of stuff. But Rock Kendricks.
Okay.
You know, so
so he plays on all that Paul Hardcastle stuff. Okay.
Yeah, and Paul sends him the tracks, and he does everything at his house.
Wow.
He lives in Hawaii, so that's another thing now, is this transcontinental cross-country recording sessions.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you about that next, because I know back in the day, as they would say, you know, if you guys gathered into a studio and you collaborated and you visually, you know, sat down. Now everything is done via email, WeTransfer, and so forth. So I was going to ask you about that next, like what, you know, how do you adjust to that? Because you come from a background of being in the studio, you know, as a conglomerate.
Well, I don't use that method a lot. I do send out my tracks to be mixed. So I would say that's the only form of cross country, I would say, that I use right now to get it mixed and mastered. But I do use Cubase as my recording DAW.
Okay.
And they actually have a function in there, like we're doing the Zoom thing now, where you can record real time into the other person's computer.
Okay. And that's state of the arts for you right there.
Yeah, that's really, yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. They had to do something, man, to kind of make it more convenient, because I think a lot of these companies, FL Studio, GarageBand, and you know, Studio One, a lot of them are realizing that this is the way that we are creating now. So they had to come up with some type of solution where we're able to do the same thing. Even if we're not together in the same room, we can still feel like it or feel connected some type of way. So that's a good thing.
Yeah. And one of the things now that is a bit of a challenge, unlike the old days where you had record companies, the ones that were interested in doing it would promo your releases when it came out. But now with the internet, you're doing your own stuff, and that is one of the things I would pass on to aspiring artists. Have your marketing game together.
Right.
Because everybody's recording, but it's how can you get it to people other than your family and friends, you know? So, you know, you just can't release it and then put it out there. You have to have a plan to get it marketed.
Right. And what do you think the plan should be for artists that are now independent and basically managing themselves? What do you suggest for marketing for those people?
They have to just make as many connections as they can with radio bloggers.
Yeah.
Unless you are part of a label, it's hard to get it on traditional radio stations, KJLH or something like that, because you have to meet a certain criteria for them to put it on their playlist. Right. So other than that, you have to, you know, just shoot from the hip, you know, search out these internet radio stations and get your buzz that way.
Absolutely. Now, this new Backhouse Nation project is currently hot. Currently, you know, you just put it out brand new. So I know it's still climbing, you know, still doing its thing, but I just kind of want to dig and see.
Some nice nibbles.
Yeah, absolutely. I know you're letting it breathe a little bit, but I want to kind of find out, are you starting on another one just yet? Or are you kind of just waiting to,
no,
what's next, man?
I'm not going to wait. Like I said, that Cafe Funk, I plan to kind of touch that up a bit.
Okay.
And getting that out, you know, hopefully fairly soon. But this year, since I've done my little R&B spiel, I'm trying to concentrate on some up-tempo dance stuff.
Okay.
You know, maybe even a little house, you know.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I heard some elements on a couple of tracks on this new project, man. Some kind of, you know, how the tempo, like 120 beats per minute, man. Really, yeah, grooving, man. So really, like I said, really good club stuff. So I like the different assortment of songs that are on this collection, because it just takes you on a trip, you know. Like you said, a little bit of jazz, a little bit of funk, a little bit of R&B. So it's got everything. So yeah, I'm really excited that it's out, and you know, people are finally getting to hear it. And we have you here to talk about it, and you know, and really dive into the recording process of how you got it out and the whole bit, man. So I'm really honored to have you on here. And tell me, as far as future projects after the Backhouse Nation, is there any other writing, film scoring, or TV scoring, anything other than just doing music? You know,
not at this point. I do plan to start trying to get into that element. You know, that's a whole nother ball game. That's a whole nother country when you get into either the jingles or the film scoring, or getting into the music supervisors playlist, because those, you really don't have to create a whole song.
Right.
You can just do 16 bars of a nice little whatever it is, symphonic or dance or whatever, and just start shooting those out. And I will explore that soon.
Okay. Sound like a plan, brother. Well, Mbaji, I want to say thank you, man. And if you, before we go, if you don't mind, just let everybody know where they can go ahead and pick up this new project, where they can go to get it, and then also where they can find you on Instagram or Facebook, any other social media where people can find you to find out what you're doing in the future.
My band page on Facebook is under Backhouse. The Instagram is under Mbaji Music. So that's Baji Music. And then I have my website, which is Mbaji Music, BAJImusic.com. And all the regular streaming platforms, Apple, Spotify, Deezer, iHeart, all those.
Everywhere you guys get your music, it's there.
Yes.
Find it.
Yeah.
Backhouse Nation by Mbaji. It's a great project. Definitely give it a spin.
If they just can remember Backhouse, it should pop up in their searches, or Backhouse Nation, as you said.
Absolutely. Well, my brother Mbaji, thank you very much for being here, taking this time to share with us on Digital Soul Presents. We wish you continued success. Keep on writing and giving us more of this good music, man. And we look forward to your future projects and this project you get out today. We thank you very much.
I thank you.
All right. Everyone, have a good evening.
Peace.
Once again, thank you.
All right. Peace and love.
Yeah, music is a strong influence on people. So we definitely want to keep that in mind as creators. You know, we want to feel some positive messages in between all the fun and all that. You still got to educate, you know, as well as entertain. So definitely a message there to all the people, for sure.